this is not going to be, okay, it's working. It's going to be an overview on what you can do basically with child templates. So I'm going to drive you through what's this new feature and how you can use it in a creative way. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to have this very irritating thing that every website has to have, this thing about cookies, that if you have cookies, then you have to have this pop-up thing that people can say, I will accept cookies, any cookies, or I will not accept any cookies other than the mandatory ones that are actually needed for the operation of the website. So I have a fairly empty Joomla web page here. That's interesting. And the only thing that I did just to showcase what we're trying to do is that I created one child template, which, as you can see, is registered as a new extension in the extension manager. But we will start from the beginning. And to do so, I'm going to switch back to Cassiopeia and uninstall this and drive you through all the steps that are needed and how to actually do more interesting things than just replicating one template. So for at the moment, the website is completely empty. So it's just Cassiopeia with nothing. I think I can install the block sample data. Okay, that won't happen. Yeah, okay. So anyway, no content. So let's create a couple of side modules. So we have something more interesting in the front end. Let's have, let's say, a menu. Call it menu. And the position should be menu. These are, I mean, most of you should be pretty familiar with these things. So what you had up till 4.1 is that the template, if you want to do anything fancy in the template, you had to do like a layout override and only do overrides for the module or the component or the plugin. And that's it. But if you want to actually go and do something inside the index.php, which is the entry point for the template, you will find yourself that you couldn't do that because on the next update, Joomla will revert all the changes that you did and ship whatever Joomla ships usually. So in order to mitigate this, so basically child templates were actually created for this reason, is that we introduced child templates. And child templates is, the UI is very easy. You just, instead of what used to be there, a button for, I think it was duplicate template or something like that, copy template. Now you have a button which says create child template. And all you have to do is just add a name let's call it new, a very inspired name. You can select if you want like the options that are already stored for this template. So if, let's say, for the Cassiopeia, I had changed the style of the template and had named it, let's say, Dimitris or whatever, that will appear there. And then we can copy also not only the actual files that are needed for the child template, but also copy the style. So it's one step less if you're trying to do things in bulk. So once you do that, you have actually two templates. The one is labeled as parent, which is the normal Cassiopeia that Joomla ships with. And the other one is the one that we just created, and the name is Cassiopeia_new. And what this template is basically is just an XML file. It has the XML file of the Cassiopeia, a little bit twisted, few things are missing, few things are different, but the main point is that there is only this file. So very interesting. Let's use it first of all. So right now, as you see, the website is using Cassiopeia as the default. You can either make it default from here or assign any pages. Right now, we don't have any pages on this website because I managed to break everything. So basically, you can assign only specific pages to this child template. So you can make more complicated things depending on parts of the of the site. So let's say if you have an e-commerce site and you have things like appliances, like kitchen appliances and televisions and stuff like that, you can have a specific child template for each one, and then you can have colors and more elaborate things changing depending on where the user is navigating. So you can do a lot of things, and I'm going to show you a few of them right now. I didn't actually save this. So we save and close, and we go. It's the classic Cassiopeia. I mean, it's the same, but the important thing here is that we're using a template that doesn't have any PHP file. So there is some magic on how this thing is working. And because of the way that child templates were created, you can actually go and edit things here in the XML, where basically is the entry for what is happening when you're editing the styles. So at this time, I'm gonna just copy this field, just showcase the point here, and let's have it here. And let's name this GA Google Analytics code. The type is gonna be text. Default value is nothing, and you can actually okay, let's do it the hard way. So the idea is that if you can hard code here one label, so I can put here directly Google Analytics code. The problem with this is that first of all, it works as you expect. Like if we go and try to edit this and we go to advanced, we will see that the Google Analytics code is there as a label. But the problem with this is that if you're doing multilingual websites and you want that the administrators to have the language at their preferred language, you should do it a little bit different. And the way to do that is by using something like, so we're gonna change the logo at the moment here and say this is GA code, but we will copy this and we have to define it, because if I don't define it right now and go back to the styles and try to edit this, you will see that this doesn't actually look very nice. But you can do that using the usual Joomla ways, like language overrides. You select the language for the administrator, because this is the administrator that affects this thing. You place here the code, the constant, and we can say this is Google Analytics code. And we save and close. And if you go, but now you have the option to use the constant, the code that we put there in any of the languages that you have, so it's more usable. Right, so if you want to do a little bit more code, because, okay, right now we have a way to get the, let's say, the Google Analytics code for our website. But how are you gonna use that, right? Let's say that the code is, I don't know, whatever. You save it, obviously, it's in the database, but how do you actually use it in the template? And to do that, unfortunately, this is a little bit more elaborate. You have to go to the parent template, copy the contents of the index.php, close the file, and then close this template, go to the parent, create a new file, select where the file should be, name it, select the extension, and create it. So now if I try to do something like echo, and the way that you get the data that is stored on the database regarding the template is using these params, and I think I named it as JCode. And so if I did it correctly, we should see somewhere a very nice triple X or something like that. No, of course not. Okay, sorry.
Something with a capital letter.
No, it's me, I cannot type. It's not a problem of Joomla. It's always me. Right, so if you see, no, you cannot see it. So if you see it's over there. So we managed to get, we managed to have a way that the users can actually, we can ask a user for some input, even if it's text, it can be anything you wanted, any of the Joomla form fields that is supported. And then you can use that data to drive your functionality. And in this case, we want to have the analytics, right? And usually what you do for the analytics is that you go to Google Analytics, you take the code, and together with the code you have a couple of JavaScripts that come with it, and you say, okay, I have to insert these two JavaScript files or whatever it is, tags, somewhere in the template, and just replace the code for the one that refers to the website. But the problem with that is that the Google Analytics code is extremely big. It's 130 kilobytes, and if you insert that in any of your website is not gonna perform very well. But there are many nice developers that have a lot of code like this, which actually is very easy to just copy-paste it. What it does is it creates that part, creates the cookie, and this part is how you call the functionality each time in your page to instantiate, not to instantiate, to get the analytics data from the visitor to the Google database. It's extremely easy, but the thing is that I don't want to just put the JavaScript in the page because you know this consent that I showed you earlier on. We should behave like good citizens, and when people say just use the cookies that are needed for Joomla, you shouldn't track. You shouldn't use the information of the user and store it to the Google database. So we have to do a little bit of work on the JavaScript here, and that's what we're gonna do. So the easy part is, because this is just plain HTML, we can go directly, and I'm gonna leave that there, and have the dialog there. So basically, what I have right now is the dialog that was defined here. The HTML part is also on the template. And let's see, first of all, how that looks like. Nothing happened. And that's normal, because the dialog by default, it's not that it's not there, it's there, but the dialog by default is hidden. And to open it, you can either add an attribute, open, and now the pop-up is in the screen. Of course, the buttons don't work, and that's normal because any interactivity in the web requires JavaScript. So I will just showcase you how you can insert your own CSS. This is just to make the buttons circular and have a little nicer layout here. So we need a CSS file, right? In order to do that, we go again to create new file. We will select that this is the CSS folder that we want. We will name it cookies we will select the extension that is CSS. The file is created, we paste our code or we write our code, and I will do the same also for the JavaScript. And no. So it's again, you name the file, you select the file type, and you press create. And my internet is gone. Really?
There's a cable. Have you plugged in?
No, I was using my mobile. Yeah, it's okay. We're back. We're back. I don't think that I have an Ethernet jack.
Oh, to plug it.
Yeah.
Can you plug it?
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's back. Okay, so we're back. Let's see. Okay, the file didn't create. Okay, so I'm gonna create it again. Cookies.js create save and yes, it's a pain. You have to always remember to select where the file that you're creating, where it should go. Yes. Right, so you have some static assets like CSS, images, and JavaScript are considered static for Joomla, and we want these static files to be included because right now, although that I added these files there, there's nothing happening, nothing interesting happening. And to do that, we will go with the Web Assets Manager. And usually, how you do this is something like that. You say WA, which is the instance of the Web Asset Manager. Let's say we want to register and use style. So basically there are two functions. There is one register and use style, and another one which is called named register and use script. And they are very, very close to what we used to have with the HTML helper script style, etc. How it works, you need to put an ID here. So I'm gonna say this is template.cookies. This is the ID. The file that I want to load is cookies.css. And there are two arrays that the one is for the options, the internal options of the function, and the other one is for attributes. Like here I can put like data something and it will show up. But that's not needed here. So right now if we go to the front-end template, you will see that the CSS doesn't have the cookies. But if I refresh, you will see that we have the cookies, and actually the cookies is the contents of the file is the one that we wanted. Okay, similarly, since we found out that this is easy to do, we will add also our JavaScript. So it's exactly the same. Instead of use register and use style, I will ask it to register and use script. But this time I'm gonna ask it to put an attribute of type equals module. Is everybody aware of this line that I wrote? That let me show you. I'll show it to you, and I will ask them. You see right now that we don't have a cookies. So if I refresh the page, the cookies should be here. Yes, and I did something wrong. Yes, I should have renamed the file, of course. All right. That's the interesting part with the live coding. Everybody get to see how bad I am. Right, so actually now we have kind of almost succeeded to what we wanted to do, right? Because once the template boots, once we enter one URL, the pop-up comes up. Also, it's very good that this pop-up is using the dialog element, which is supported everywhere since 4 weeks. But the thing is that I'm using a polyfill. So if we check the code, right, you don't see the code. Oh no, you see it says that if this thing exists, if this type of function is a function, then use it. If it's not, then use a polyfill. So even though it's extremely new feature, at least for Safari that I'm using here, it's supporting dialog only for 4 weeks, I think, or something like that. Even for older browsers, this will still work because we are polyfilling the ones that don't support dialog. But it's very good also for accessibility, as I said, because this thing doesn't need any area, hidden area, pop-up area, dialog. Brian knows all this area thing. But the thing is that this is right now supported everywhere, so you shouldn't do models in any other ways other than using the dialog directly. Right, so we have this thing, but we won't like, okay, this is funny, the whole thing that I wrote here, but the idea is that you will say in a better English or whatever language you're gonna use, a more nice way to ask, do you allow us to use tracking or not, right? Because this is all it's all about. And the thing is that yes, no, this you can use whatever language you want, like accept, deny, use defaults and stuff like that. But the idea is that you have to give the user the option to say, I don't mind to use Google Analytics, or they say, no, I don't care about analytics, don't track me. This is the main goal. And the thing is that, you see, this is an if kind of thing. If it's the one, you have to do something. If it's the other one, you have to do something else. And the one that is a little bit more complicated is the one that when people say, I don't have any problem, you can use tracking, because then you have to somehow initiate the Google code. You have to send to the Google database the code for the tracking. As I said, we're going to use this. But there is one interesting thing that we have to consider. I mean, when somebody visits the page first time, this pop-up will appear. And regardless what the user will eventually come up selecting or selecting nothing, we have to figure out that if they selected that, next time that next time that they will navigate, let's say, to the next page or whatever, or they come back to this page, that we will keep in our data somehow their selection. Like, we don't want them to have this pop-up interrupting them every time. And in order to do that, and that's the funny part here, is we're going to use cookies. So we're going to use cookies to send the data back to Joomla. And then in the template, where we have this part, the dialog part, we have to somehow figure out if the cookie is there, and if it is, then the dialog shouldn't appear. This is a little bit right. So, how long do we have? I have enough time? 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. So, okay, let's go to the final. I'm gonna have all this code. I mean, it's some CSS, some JS, and the code for the index.php. I will have it in a gist or somewhere, so where you can just go and grab it. I'm gonna go directly and paste, and I'm just gonna explain the interesting parts here, so it doesn't go too long. So as I said, the part for the PHP is that we need a way to figure out if the cookies, if a cookie exists. And the way I'm doing it is just I'm setting a cookie on the JavaScript side, on the client side. The cookie is named cookie consent, and it can have 3 values: 0, 1, or 2. And in the JavaScript, the part that doesn't work like that, the part that it sets this is when you say when we open the model, we actually set up a click for each of the 2 buttons. You remember we have 2 buttons, yes, no. Actually, if you want to do this for production, you have to set up also another event listener for the escape button, because the escape also works. But the idea is this, that if it's, I'm using a data thing here to see which button is yes or no. If they say track, then I said that cookie consent equals 1. If they say just use the normal cookies that Joomla requires, then it's cookie consent equals 2. And the way that this works is, if you see we have only 2 cookies, and the reason that we have 2 cookies is because we have 2 sessions. The one session is the actual site that we're watching here, which is the front end, and the other one is, of course, the backend. These are 2 different sessions. So if I refresh now, and if I did it correctly, and I say, do you allow us? Yes. You see that just by pressing that without refreshing or anything, that we have a cookie consent with a value 1. And we already have a GA, which is basically the way that Google is gonna know where to send this data, and it's basically how it works. And so if I refresh the page right now, and the pop-up didn't appear, but the interesting thing here is that even if I remove this, you see I just remove the Google part, and if I refresh the page, you see that every page view is tracked, which is basically what we asked it in the code. Yes, so I think that it's an interesting way to use child templates in a way that you don't use too many modules. So instead of using a module, which will, most of the times, these modules that exist in dozens in the extension directory, what they do is they have the actual code of the Google Analytics, which, as I say, is extremely large and it's blocking. And doing it like that, it doesn't affect at all your performance. And we can check the performance with the usual tool. How do you check the performance? Do you go in your Chrome and run Lighthouse? Yeah. Yes? Yeah. Okay, that's not the preferred. I mean, it's the preferred thing to do if you're doing things locally. But if you're about to see what's actually happening, it's better if you go to web.dev/measure and just have the actual site measured for you by the bots of Google. It's the same thing. But the thing is that you're not using your local connection, and that might be very good depending on where your actual server is. Because you know the performance is gonna vary depending on the on where the actual web server is. Like if you have a web server in Australia and you try to measure it from Europe, it's not gonna perform very well just because physics is too far away. And even with the speed of light, it takes time to get the information. Joomla is doing very well, performance-wise. And by doing this little thing that I showcase you today, you retain the speed of your website. You have the ability to have Google Analytics without the pain of Google Analytics destroying your performance. And it's, I think, an interesting way of how to use the child templates in order to drive interesting functionality. And by that, any questions?
Just to go further on this example,
yes.
For example, sometimes you only want to publish it on, okay, maybe not for Google Analytics, but for
another
script
or
whatever. You only want to publish it on certain pages because you only need that code on certain pages.
Yes.
Or maybe you have a multilingual website and
you need different code for.
Is different according
yes.
to language, but you have parameters, whatever. Different cases like that. Then how would you tackle that?
There are different ways to to do it, I think what I will personally do is go to the actual Cassiopeia template. Now this might sound very weird. I will go to the actual Cassiopeia and create a layout here, like something unique, something that, don't name it, let's say, cookies, because cookies is not unique. Same name it something like x underscore underscore cookies or something like that. And create a layout, right? And actually, and put the code for the pop-up in there. That means that any subsequent, and do also the same thing also for the CSS and the JS, right? Put the files with unique names into the folder CSS and JS of the Cassiopeia. And what this allows you is that when you go to the child template, you don't have to replicate all this code. The only thing that you might have to do in its index.php is just set one line of code. Instead of writing all these things here, you will do just one line of code, which is going to be like layout helper render x underscore underscore cookies.php. That's extremely easy and extremely nice to not have to do all this all the time. And by passing only the thing, I just removed it. So you remember at the beginning I said that these params get back to top, where you're getting the ID. So you can have you can have multiple, first of all, child templates, where you only get that thing and you pass it to the layout, which already exists in the parent template. And you can spin many child templates with different tags and different options. And you only do just one line, like copy the index and just add one line.
I never thought of using my own layout. Starting from Joomla 4, I thought, well, some of the things I was doing with Joomla 3, I want to do it from scratch in a clean way.
Yes.
The first way I thought of this was to create a simple module alternate layout.
Yes.
So that there I put basically the same code as you for the CSS, the asset manager, and that module. Actually, anybody can publish it, unpublish,
yes.
select on assign on the pages, assign according to languages. So it was a quick way to
the reason, first of all, that I wanted to showcase this is because, of course, you can do it with modules, but modules have an inherent performance cost. Each module that you add on a website is degrading your performance. That doesn't mean that if you have 5 or 10 modules, your performance is going to be impacted badly. But if you have hundreds of modules, then you're going to see actual degradation, because there is, every time that you're using either module, plugin, whatever, from Joomla, there is actual PHP code that needs to be run each and every time. Okay, there is caching and stuff like that, but still there is the actual code that needs to be executed in order to get all the functionality that is related with either plugins or modules. So if you can do it just by having it, okay, right now we hard-coded it in the template, which probably is not a very good idea, but it's due to time constraints we did it like that. But actually, yeah, if you take this part of the HTML part of the dialog, let's say, and the 2 lines that I put further up about the CSS and JavaScript, you're good to go. I mean, it's just one line. And the idea is, I'm not saying that you should do it like that. It's not like I'm dictating or promoting this idea. I just want to show that you can solve a problem that I'm pretty sure, because we are in Europe and we have to have this freaking thing down there, everybody has to use something. And I'm pretty sure that if you play around a little bit with style templates and with some CSS, JavaScript, and HTML, you can do better than most of the modules that already exist in the extension. Yes?
Any other question? What has focus when you on the page load?
That's a good question. Yeah, but the thing is that I messed up the data here, right? Okay, let's reset. What is this Safari? Okay. I think the focus goes directly to that thing. No, it's not. So there's no focus applied directly into the. But I'm pretty sure that you can do it. There are two ways that this model works.
Well, maybe that's not a topic. It's about
Okay.
what we can during the coffee break, because
Okay.
we still have 1 minute before the next.
Okay.
We only have 1 minute for the next session.
Thank you.